You're listening to Caroline Radio, KCGN Bakersfield, your home for all your variety hits, just like the Aaron's Opinion podcast. Welcome back, listener. How are you? I'm glad you've had a good week. Tonight I'm joined by someone, as I was saying before I pushed the record button, joined by someone who I have been following for a while, I'll tell you, at least 5 years on YouTube, off and on, watching his fascinating, entertaining, and educational content. This person is blind like us in the audience and like me. He produces a lot of content all about accessible gaming. And he's done a lot of work and a lot of videos about the Oculus Rift headset and virtual reality. So if you don't know who I'm talking about already, it's a great honor and pleasure to be joined by Jessie Anderson, or as I like to call him, or maybe he likes to call himself, illegally cited. And it turns out that Jessie has been listening to Aaron's opinion without Aaron even noticing. So, Jessie, illegally cited, welcome to Aaron's opinion. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
Thank you for joining me at such short notice. So basically, one of the things that really caught my attention about you about 5 years ago on YouTube was your motivation and your enjoyment of playing and learning about and showing people accessible games. You've got it covered. I remember one of the games that I found, and you at home probably thought, oh my God, that's boring. But I thought it was really pleasant to watch, was the game where you played and you're some sort of like a sea creature, some sort of like a fish. And the game is like you like sort of like swim around and it just looks cool. So, I mean, you've played a lot of really fascinating games. So why don't you start out by telling us, I mean, I guess my first question is, how did you become so attracted and so enamored, I guess, by accessible gaming? Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, yeah, a little bit of background. I am legally blind, have been since birth, or as that's kind of where I got the illegally sighted thing from. You know, the whole spin on. I always thought,
I love that, but
yeah, legally blind. I thought was just a little bit of a weird term. I know what it means, but it's always weird, and so I kind of got tired of people. You know, like when people ask, like, "Oh, what is your vision impairment?" So instead of giving them a straight answer, I'm like, "I'm illegally sighted," and I just like to get people's strange looks. And I couldn't think of a name for the channel when I started. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to roll with this and see what happens. And so I've been into gaming pretty much as far as I can remember. You know, I grew up back in the days of the Atari 2600, Commodore 64.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I saw them early on. And
Cool. Yeah, I'm 90. I was born in 91.
Okay.
So yeah. So what are you? Are you 10 years old? 10 years older than me? 5 years older than me?
79. So yeah.
Okay, 77. Yeah,
yeah,
so
I'm old.
Well, not that bad, man. Not that bad, man. Just
yeah.
You're basically kind of a generation ahead of, or the generation before me, I guess.
Right.
Slightly before. Yeah. So you grew up in the 80s, and I grew up in the 90s. So there was a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when I started, you know, I was originally just fascinated with the fact that, oh, I can not only watch TV, but I can actually control something on it. So that was like the Atari stuff. And then I saw the Nintendo Entertainment System, the old NES. And from that point on, I was hooked, saw my first computer, my talking computer, and I was fascinated with that. And so pretty much from that point on, I knew I was going to do something in technology. And so from my day, like I've had a few jobs over the years, but I'm currently working for the state of Minnesota, and I'm currently working as an assistive technology specialist with the state, kind of helping people who are blind or visually impaired, you know, get through school and eventually ultimately become employed, because that's a huge thing. And that's another passion of mine.
And that's something that I greatly appreciate. And that's one of the things that I hope that Aaron's opinion does, is that I hope that if it helps one person to feel better and to feel more motivated to get out there and be successful, then it was a successful thing. Then it's a successful podcast. So
exactly.
That whole issue of employment, and I find Jesse, that after talking to so many blind people from all over the world, I find that employment is a huge issue, and also motivation is also an issue that is also a recurring issue that I see quite frequently.
Oh,
People,
absolutely. I could
oh
talk about
yeah,
that for ages myself. I mean, I never, like I said, I mean, I never really wanted to be, I always wanted to be as independent as I could. I wanted to be, I wanted to be successful, be independent, be on my own, and not have to worry about being, on a monthly check, that kind of a thing. And like, was it hard? Absolutely. And we definitely oftentimes do have to work, twice as hard to get the same as everybody else, but I'm not going to let that, from stopping
right.
me doing it anyway.
And that's what I've been telling people is that a lot of times in life, even if you're successful, that just means some of the times it means that you just took, one step forward, two steps back.
Oh God,
And
yeah.
and it's a constant thing that I see, really. But that's interesting. So okay, well I think that's in. So exactly, if you help, when you help blind people to find meaningful employment, what, how exactly do you do that, and what are some issues that you're seeing lately out in Minnesota with that issue?
Well, really, I mean, this year with the, with the virus and everything, it's put a really weird spin on everything. But basically, my part of it, what I do, I'm an assistive technology specialist during the day, and so, you know, people will come in and we'll get referrals from counselors, and then we will I will meet with the people, and I work primarily these days with transition age students, so typically high school, early college, that kind of a thing. So
Excellent.
figuring out, getting their technology, figuring out what technology would best help them, and not only that, but like getting them set up with the proper training so that they can be successful in college and hopefully ultimately go out there and find be employable and get a job and all that good stuff. So we'll meet with people and work with them to figure out what technology and technology training would help them, and just all kinds of different stuff like that.
Hmm. Excellent. Good. Good. And yeah.
Oh no, I
Oh.
was just going to say,
Oh.
in the gaming stuff.
Yeah. So let's kind of segue. I guess segue
Sure.
or drift around as we go through the hour. I guess. So then, how did you develop this admiration for the YouTubing and really creating a channel for blind people where you show how easy it is for blind people to get into gaming? Because I think that's the fun part of your channel. So
Well,
talk about that. Yeah.
the funny thing is, it kind of happened by accident. Believe it or not, I've been doing this for like over a little bit over 8 years now, because I started in 2012.
Hmm.
And it started out, a friend of mine and I, we had a Minecraft server that we were working on, and we were kind of building our own maps together, and we wanted to share things back and forth, but it was actually getting too crazy to be sharing back and forth these map files. And so then we ended up getting a server so that we could play on there together and do cooperative projects and things. And then we got the idea of, whoa, okay, well, we could show other people. I mean, I could just try to record something. I found some, free or cheap recording software. And my first couple of videos were kind of giving a tour of the creations that we had done on the Minecraft server. And then I thought, well, that was actually kind of interesting. And so I just kind of put up a couple of other, videos in the beginning. And I thought, well, if I am going to do this, I don't know how long this is going to last or if this is going to really even become a thing. What can set my channel apart from the gazillions of other ones that are out there related to tech and gaming? And I thought, well, at the time, I mean, there's a lot more people now, but in 2012, to my knowledge anyway, there really weren't that many people doing the whole blind and visually impaired Twitch or YouTube or just, videos or streaming in general. There were a couple that I knew of, but not very many. And so I thought, well, let's take a look at mainstream games and how I play them, as a person who is legally blind. I have enough vision to play a lot of mainstream games, but I still do have trouble with some types of them. And then I figured out how to capture iOS footage to my computer. So I started covering mobile content. And then in 2015, I attended the CSUN conference, technology conference in San Diego at the time. And I met a person, Ian Hamilton. He had a session there. And I attended his session. We started communicating over email and Twitter and things like that. And so to that point, I'd been making videos and I've been doing these kind of spotlight videos and apps. And, I was doing my thing. But after we had talked and I had attended his session on game accessibility for 2015 or whatever it was, I really kicked things into high gear because he just like, oh, you know what, this could actually really become a thing. And I just, concentrated even more in my spare time on doing different types of videos and just looking at different areas of accessibility and low vision. And around the same time, commercial VR started becoming a thing, virtual reality, and I had to get myself an Oculus Rift because I saw a prototype of it earlier, and I'm like, okay, I know there's going to be issues, but again, here's another ground floor opportunity for me. Is VR is definitely a more enthusiast hobby still to some degree, because if you have a computer-based VR system, you still do need a decent computer gaming rig to play things properly that'll support it, and the headset and everything itself. I can't imagine there will be too many blind and visually impaired people coming into that. And so I started covering VR content, and then I thought to myself, like, well, if I can get this advocacy and consulting piece going both with gaming and VR as well, because VR is this new medium, everybody's still trying to figure it out. Everybody is trying to figure out what standards to have in general for everything. So if I can start, knocking on doors and talking to developers and saying, hey, as you're thinking about all this other stuff, there's some people out here that also maybe want you to consider adding maybe some accessibility standards and frameworks from the ground up. So I've been trying to advocate for that. And I did a presentation on that very topic in 2017 for the ID24 web conference. And that archive is on my channel as well, or the presentation I did on VR low vision accessibility.
Outstanding.
And since then,
Go. Oh, perfect. Keep.
Yeah, no, I'm just
yeah.
Since then, it's kind of just been a thing of really continuing to do the channel. I did start streaming about a year and a half ago on Mixer because I thought, well, Windows has got this game bar built right into Windows, and I don't really have to do much setup for it, I don't think. So let's give this Mixer thing a try. And so I've been putzing with that off and on the last year and a half or so. But then, just like I said, trying to work with game developers, app developers, doing betas, becoming a member of some groups like the Able Gamers player panels, doing some stuff with Microsoft on the side, got a couple things through them. And then just recently I've started getting just these, little game accessibility is actually starting to become a thing. And I have some really good news about that later. But, within the last 6 months or so, I've really just started getting some actual, little one-off paid, consulting gigs that, paid or unpaid, that, but the developers are just taking notice and are thinking, well, maybe we should talk to some people and try to add accessibility features to our games and stuff. So it's just been a really busy combination of things, but I've been loving it a lot.
Perfect. Yeah, and the thing that really impressed me on your channel, I remember years ago watching those spotlights. You had a lot of fun doing, play gameplays of so many. But there were, the thing of it is that it was very noticeable to me. And now that I'm thinking back to it, it was overly noticeable that a lot of these games, some are just written a lot better than others. And some are just significantly better. Oh, something about now. Okay, I'm going to get the title wrong, so just tell me what it's called once I mess this up. You played some game called like Papa Sanjay or something like that, where it was like, is that what it's called?
Papa Sangre. Unfortunately, it's not available in the App Store anymore. That company stopped making accessibility or blind accessible games, which is a
Aw.
crime because they were doing some fantastic work,
So
and
I
they
mean,
were.
and it was really cool for me just to